The tension rising this week on The Bold and the Beautiful is not the kind that explodes all at once. It is slower, sharper, and far more dangerous because it grows out of history, unfinished emotions, and fears that were never truly buried. At the center of this storm stands the Forrester family, once again confronted with the reality that love in Los Angeles is never just personal. It is political, symbolic, and often weaponized. The revelation of Taylor Hayes' new romance does not simply provoke anger. It threatens to reopen wounds that have defined this family for decades. And it places Steffy Forrester in a state of near panic as she tries to control a narrative that is rapidly slipping beyond her grasp. Steffy's reaction is immediate and visceral, not because she doubts her mother's right to happiness, but because she understands the specific danger of this happiness taking the shape that it has. Taylor being caught in an intimate moment with Deacon Sharp is not merely scandalous. It is catastrophic in Steffy's eyes. Of all the men in Los Angeles, Deacon represents the most volatile possible choice, a man whose orbit inevitably intersects with Sheila Carter, a name that still carries the echo of violence, obsession, and death threats. Steffy does not see romance when she looks at Taylor and Deacon. She sees a ticking clock, a sequence of past disasters repeating themselves with terrifying precision. This fear is amplified by the fact that Steffy has only just begun to breathe again. With Luna Nozawa gone, the constant sense of surveillance and threat that haunted her daily life has finally started to fade. For the first time in months, Steffy can walk into her office without instinctively scanning every corner for danger. That fragile sense of safety is precious to her, and Taylor's involvement with Deacon feels like a direct assault on it. To Steffy, this is not about judgment or morality. It is about survival, about refusing to allow her family to be pulled back into Sheila's gravitational field after fighting so hard to escape it. Desperation drives Steffy to make a move that reveals just how trapped she feels. She pulls both her father and her brother into the chaos, urging them to help her stop this relationship before it spirals further out of control. In doing so, Steffy crosses an emotional line because her plan does not simply involve warning Taylor away from danger. It involves reshaping the entire emotional landscape of her parents' lives. Steffy begins to believe that the only way to neutralize Sheila's interest in Taylor is to remove the very reason Sheila might fixate on her. In Steffy's mind, that means reuniting Taylor with Ridge Forrester. This logic, while deeply flawed, is born from fear rather than manipulation. Steffy convinces herself that if Ridge leaves Brooke Logan and returns to Taylor, Sheila would lose any perceived claim or rivalry, and Taylor would be protected under Ridge's watchful presence. It is an emotional equation that ignores the autonomy of everyone involved, yet it reveals how far Steffy is willing to go to protect her mother. In her mind, the pain caused by disrupting Ridge's marriage is a lesser evil than the potential consequences of allowing Taylor to remain vulnerable to Sheila's attention. However, this plan forces an uncomfortable question into the open, one that Steffy seems unwilling to fully confront. Should Ridge truly be responsible for Taylor's romantic choices now that he is married to Brooke? Ridge's history of stepping in to rescue Taylor has always been complicated, blurring the line between concern and emotional dependence. Steffy's plea places Ridge in an impossible position, asking him to prioritize his past over his present and to once again define himself through Taylor's crises. It also implicitly dismisses Brooke's role as his wife, reducing her to an obstacle rather than a partner. Ridge, for his part, is not immune to the pull of old instincts. The idea of Taylor being harassed or endangered by Sheila triggers a protective reflex that has never truly disappeared. No matter how committed he is to Brooke, Ridge has always struggled to detach himself emotionally from Taylor when she appears vulnerable. Yet this time, the situation is fundamentally different. Ridge is no longer standing between two women as an undecided man. He is married, and that marriage carries expectations, boundaries, and obligations that cannot simply be set aside without consequence. From Brooke's perspective, the unfolding situation feels disturbingly familiar. The rhythm of events, the emotional cues, even the language surrounding Taylor's supposed peril all echo moments from the past when Ridge left Brooke to save Taylor. Brooke senses the pattern forming before anyone openly names it, and that awareness hardens her resolve. She understands that what is being framed as concern may actually be a replay of the same emotional manipulation that has haunted their relationship for years. To Brooke, this is not about jealousy, it is about self-preservation. As Ridge's wife, Brooke begins to question how much of his attention and emotional energy still belongs to his ex-wife. The thought that her husband might once again be drawn into Taylor's orbit under the guise of heroism unsettles her deeply. Brooke knows how easily compassion can be weaponized, how quickly a temporary rescue can become a permanent shift in loyalty. Her fear is not irrational, it is rooted in lived experience. That fear pushes her toward drawing a line, one that she may soon enforce with surprising firmness. Brooke's response takes shape not as an emotional outburst, but as a rule. She begins to consider limiting, or even forbidding, Ridge's contact with Taylor, recognizing that unchecked access is precisely how boundaries erode. To outsiders, this might seem controlling, but to Brooke it is an act of clarity. She refuses to relive a cycle that has cost her too much in the past. If Ridge truly chooses her, then that choice must be reflected in action, not just words. The central question now becomes whether Ridge will honor that boundary or rationalize crossing it. Will he once again fall for the familiar narrative of the distressed woman needing his protection, convincing himself that he can help Taylor without jeopardizing his marriage? Or will he finally accept that Taylor's choices, including her relationship with Deacon, are not his responsibility to manage or correct? Ridge's decision will reveal whether he has truly grown beyond the emotional patterns that have defined him for so long. Meanwhile, Taylor herself stands at the heart of this conflict, often spoken about rather than listened to. Her involvement with Deacon may be reckless, but it is also a declaration of independence. Taylor is not seeking rescue, she is seeking connection on her own terms. Whether this choice leads to danger or growth remains to be seen, but the attempt by others to control it speaks volumes about how little faith they have in her agency. The more Steffi and Ridge try to intervene, the more Taylor's relationship becomes a battleground rather than a personal journey. As the week unfolds, the tension between past and present tightens. Steffi's fear-driven strategy threatens to destabilize her father's marriage. Brooke's insistence on boundaries risks exposing unresolved truths about Ridge's loyalties. Ridge himself stands at a crossroads, forced to decide whether protection is an excuse for avoidance, and whether love means saving others or standing firm where he is. Beneath it all looms Sheila's shadow, a reminder that some dangers are real, but that not every crisis can be solved by repeating old mistakes. In the end, the most unsettling possibility is not that Taylor and Deacon's relationship could end in chaos, but that it might succeed in doing what so many dramatic events before it have failed to do, expose the emotional fault lines that were never truly repaired. If Ridge chooses to run toward the past once more, he may discover that this time, the future will not wait for him to come back.